Come to me. Come to me. I've never shared my secret with any soul.
You have had these spells since childhood. Tell me what you can from the beginning.
It is like a dream. It was our wedding. When we turned around, everyone was dead. The stench of their bodies was horrible. Standing before me was death. But I'd never been so happy.
This creature is a force more powerful than evil. Its desire is to consume all life on Earth. Only you can redeem us. He is coming.
There is a devil in this world, and I have met him.
But you could never please me as he could. I'm ready.
Well then,
There's a lot. That's a lot. Like, I hadn't rewatched the trailer since seeing the movie, and it shows some like pretty important aspects of the movie, actually.
yep. Oh, it's
I will
started again.
say, go
My
ahead.
bad.
What was that?
Oh, I accidentally started it again. It started over again.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't sharing. My bad. Oh, you were saying, Amanda. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was just saying that it shows some like pretty important aspects of the movie, but I don't know, it's a really good edit because it doesn't give away too much
Right.
of what's happening, but it gives you that's a really good, a well put together trailer.
It's
Yeah,
a
it doesn't-
really good teaser for the movie, and I would say I think one of the most stark things that's missing is an actual reveal of Nosferatu, which I think was really, really a powerful part of promotion for the movie.
Mhm.
I was not looking very hard, but I never stumbled across what Skarsgård's version of Nosferatu looked like until I saw the movie.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but you saw
Yeah.
the shadow, and that was it. And you didn't really even hear the voice. You heard that little grumbling he does, but that's about it.
That's a good point. I don't think I realized that is that like, even the voice was not there. But I think again having the shadow is harkens back really nicely to the original because the light and shadow was so important in that original movie for setting tone.
Right.
Even for indicating time of day.
Yeah. I in one of our comments in the after our first one, somebody commented, and they were well more versed in the original Nosferatu than we were. And he said that you were right, Amanda. They did do the daylight and the nighttime coloring on purpose.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you did call that out, and there was so much more. He said we even watched a little bit shorter, an edited version of it. There was a different version with a
Oh,
few more scenes.
Okay.
Not a lot, but I was like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't know. I just clicked on the first one that came up.
yeah.
Well, I mean, this is something that like the original movie was lost, if I remember correctly. Like,
It was
so
destroyed.
there's several versions floating around.
Yeah, I mean, it was destroyed. Talk about a cancel culture. If you're found
Yeah.
in violation of plagiarism, they just destroyed your shit. They didn't say
Right.
they didn't say, you know, give me part of the royalties.
And
Yeah.
none
And
for
all you have is a physical copy, and they are just going to destroy all of your work.
Yeah, you're not running digital
Physical
backups.
Yeah, there's no backup. It's just we're going to destroy this, and it's going to be gone forever.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, the movie opens up with Ellen like pleading to someone just out there because she's lonely.
Yeah.
Like, how old do you think she was supposed to be in that? Like, she was here like a 14-year-old, like just lonely and waiting for someone, because it kind of just skips over. Next thing you know, she's married.
Yeah. I mean, I took it as her being like somewhere in like that young teen stage or mid-teens.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I jumped at the jump scare. Almost spilled
So
my
did I.
popcorn.
So did I, for sure.
Loud noises startle me. But I was thinking like mid-teens, probably like I don't
Yeah.
know,
Especially
16.
back in that era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
You're
people
getting
got
married
married.
early.
Yeah. They got married super early in that era. And a lot of
But
it too has
imagine
to,
like you're just asking the universe to like, hey, I'm really lonely. Do you think that maybe you can send me a friend, universe? And the universe is like, Nosferatu.
yeah,
Like,
death,
come
death incarnate.
Not that, but here's this weirdly sexual vampire that you could be friends with, maybe.
Yeah, it's
Like-
like best I can do is naked vampire.
Take it or leave it. You said you're lonely, beggars can't be choosers.
You get what you get.
I thought that was really interesting how much they expanded upon not just the main characters, but the side characters. I mean, I feel like Anna was just like, you saw her in 2 scenes in the original. She's a fully fleshed out character in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it wasn't her. They weren't related. It was just the neighbors or something like that, or friends, family friends.
I think it was friends. I think
Yeah.
Anna was a friend of hers, and then her husband was like not having that shit. But that's
Yeah.
beside the point. He was right.
He was over all the shit. We would have drank to him being over everything.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it wasn't until the second watch that I realized he was like the maritime leader. Like, he ran the docks.
Mhm.
Which is why he was there when the ship came.
Right.
The plague ship.
Yeah. It totally
Like,
went over my head the first time.
Yeah. Which is
So-
like that's I'm just gonna bring up the last voyage of the Demeter again. I'm just gonna bring it up again because that's like such an underrated vampire movie, and
I need to watch that.
it's only about that like segment of this story where he's traveling on the boat and what
Yeah.
happens with the ship's crew.
Yeah. Which is a really critical part of the story that just like I feel like there was no representation of in the original, much more in this one.
Right,
Yeah.
right. They did show a little bit, but this one they actually showed scenes where the crew is about to revolt against him, and
Mhm.
and he shows up out of the shadows with all
Another
the
jump
rats.
scare.
Yeah, another. But yeah, so
I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So.
just a little bit. That's fine. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to what we do. We do whatever comes up, you know.
We're on this windy path together.
Yeah, and so then we find then just like the original, he's got to go out to the Carpathian Mountains to greet an account that is going to buy real estate in their town.
Yeah.
And then he leaves Ellen with their friends. And by the way, let's rewind real quick. I mean, if we're gonna count Die Hard as a Christmas movie, this is a Christmas movie.
I mean, technically,
yeah,
it is Yule time in that movie.
So,
Yeah,
Do you
they have
think
the
your
Christmas
Christmas
tree
movie-
with the candles on them.
Fire hazard. Honestly.
Yeah,
I
but,
know, I
mean,
was terrified. That was
Yeah, that's
actually
so
a really
nervous.
scary part of the movie. I was like, is this house gonna burn down? Is that part of this?
I was worried the tree was going to catch fire. I'm not going to lie. I was certain that was going to happen.
I don't know. They water it enough. Maybe in like when it's
know.
January 11th or something like that. Then maybe you have
Gonna
fire
catch
hazard.
when it's dropping all its needles. So we better take that outside without the needles.
You get a a little spark come out and done.
Speaking of plants, I do love that one of the first introductions we get to Ellen in present time is when she gets flowers, and yet again she's like, "Why'd you kill them?"
Yeah,
Right.
That was an excellent throwback to the original movie. I got very excited about that.
yeah, I got excited about that too. I'm like, hey, that was look at right there.
Brian's like, "Why is this so exciting?" I'm like, "I'll tell you later." Concentrating.
It turns out she's pretty okay with dead things after all.
Yeah, and then we get he does his voyage to Count Dracula to to coin a term, not coin a term, but use a proper. I don't know. I'm fucking stumbling all over myself. Amanda, you take over.
Welcome to the Cold Brew Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda, for some reason.
No, he goes and does his voyage, and he stops at a gypsy town, right?
Okay, so that part, like, this whole voyage, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh wow, I can't believe this happened this way, because like the only way that any of this happens this way is because he is trying to be polite.
Yes.
He's like trying to be well-mannered and polite while he gets his horse stolen, while they're yelling at him, while they're, it's like the whole like dance scene in front of the inn. And like, he's so out of his element and just like confused by, it's like, this man has never left his hometown. And now he's got to go on this voyage that no one fully prepared him for. And he's just, like culturally thinks everybody does things the way that he does them. And he's just trying to apply his sensibilities to all these situations that just don't make sense. And if at any time he had been like, hell no, and just went the other way, this movie could not have existed.
Yeah, and he may have read about stuff like that in books and stuff like, because he's a learned man. So, but there's no way he would ever know all the nuances and all the customs and everything.
I think they portrayed that culture shock really well, though, because in the original, he can communicate with the villagers, which would not have been the case at all.
Right.
Like the fact that there's a language barrier, the fact that there's the cultural obstacles that he faces. I mean, he sees them literally go exhume a body and stab it for being a vampire. Like that whole ritual scene, I think was a really good way to represent that whole outsider feeling. Like he's not only is he an outsider in the place that he has traveled to, but he's going somewhere where the people that live there are like, don't go there. Don't do that. And he's just like, well, I got to do it anyway. I guess it'll be
sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry about your centuries of culture telling me not to do this, but I'm going to go.
Because of money, right?
Yeah. And it's a good representation of that, like disbelief in superstition. And I think treating other cultures sometimes as backward or superstitious or, less learned, and like seeing them with, the exhuming of a body and all of the dancing and misunderstanding of the language and just being an outsider. I think it's really important to kind of get that vibe of like, he's coming from this like posh background with his own, nice home, even though it's not like a big manor house, and just that whole foreign aspect. I said that really poorly. My brain halfway through was just like, no.
I was like, do you want the brain cell back? Because I'm clearly not using it.
I don't know. There might not be a brain cell anymore. The brain cell might be gone.
Yeah.
It's floating in beer.
Yeah. I need to drink a little more hops and then my brain will like click on.
Your brain will brain again. But some of the prettiest shots of the movie were in this sequence though, when he's traveling. Like just gorgeous, like the mountainside, the countryside, it's just beautiful. Even when he finally gets the carriage comes to take him from Orlok's castle, it comes down that black forest with the white road. It's so fucking cool.
That carriage.
I know, right?
I mean, me, I would get in that carriage.
Yeah, honestly, I'd be like, this is my life now, wherever this takes me.
Cinematically, that whole scene, I think, is my favorite in the entire movie.
I agree, 100%.
It just the framing with the trees is just gorgeous.
The coloring.
Contrast.
Yep.
And I think we get back into that zone of when we're talking about like the sepia tone and the cool tone shots representing different times a day. I feel like this movie, while not doing it as like on the nose, is very much a spiritual successor to that technique.
Right.
But that scene in the woods, I was like, this is perfect. I love it. I love everything about it. Also, the fact that he just gets in the damn carriage. Man has no survival
he just gets in the
instinct.
carriage. Yeah, he just like confidently gonna do that. I do want to just say one thing though too about him going on this journey, because like what you said about it's for money. She didn't want the money. She just wanted to not be alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, nope, sorry, best I can do is leave you alone to go get money. Like,
because he wants to provide for her. He's got that sense, the societal pressures making him the breadwinner.
Right.
Yeah,
and she doesn't care about any of that. She's like, nope, we can live in this small house forever. I don't care. Just don't go on this like journey that I know is going to be catastrophic. And he's like, sorry, I have to.
The fact that this whole connection started from her, like calling out to the universe because she was lonely, and then he leaves her.
Right.
The only thing that stopped all of these dreams and everything for her was her marriage to him. And then he's like, all right, well, see you later. Have fun. And then that's when that connection is reinvigorated. And
and as we find out later on, even the sex is what does it for her. It is what grounds her.
Yeah.
And that was such a taboo back in those days that's why she felt she was wrong about it.
It does feel very pre-women empowerment in that sense of like,
for sure.
Oh no, you cannot be a sexual being. Don't do that. That's bad. Bad things will happen. Naked, decrepit vampires will come get you. Don't be sexual.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
All right. So speaking of which, then we get to Orlok's castle, right? I was disappointed there wasn't 6-foot chairs.
The chairs were very small.
Yeah, they were regular.
They still looked uncomfortable, but they were very like normal sized chairs.
I wanted the 6-foot chairs. I was disappointed. I was really looking forward to it. I don't know how to express that, but yeah, it was a bad downfall. But then there was Orlok, and that's we finally first got to meet him, but we didn't really see him. We just heard him.
I really love that delayed actual view of him. And I felt a lot of the movie, I was like, are we going to get to see him now? Are we going to get to see him now? And again, the use of shadows continues to be really powerful in this version of the movie.
But his speaking, his tone, it was hard to pick up at first. It took a while to get used to the way he was talking.
Yeah, and I think with Skarsgård in general, he's just such a phenomenal actor to play villains. Like every villain he plays, he knocks it out of the park.
I think he's really just creepy. Like I think this is just who he is.
Yeah, I think he just knows how to play a creep, but he also tries to make him unique though. You know, I didn't feel there was any Pennywise in him, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, definitely no Pennywise. It's definitely a unique character.
How did you guys feel about the look? Like how he looked, especially when they first meet each other in the castle. Like this is the reveal of like he's still in the shadows, but you kind of start getting an idea of what the look is. How did you feel about how the Count looks?
I mean, I'm a special effects makeup fan, very much so. I loved what they did. I mean, the fact that I found him unrecognizable from the actor that played him. But what really stood out to me, and this applies to the movie as a whole, is the costuming. His costuming in particular, he looks like a Romanian noble who's been dead for a while. Like he's wearing the old style nobility clothes, and they look a little worse for wear. But I think for me, like that was a big part of it, is the costuming, which I think you got more of it in the silhouette, other than like the weird, really sparse mustache, which I had a lot of feelings about.
I had a lot of feelings about the mustache as well. Like why a mustache and not a full beard? Was this like a Romanian thing? Did Romanian nobles have just mustaches?
I don't know. And now I feel like I need to look this up. But like I feel like it captured that like decay, loss of hair thing really well. But now I'm gonna look it up to see if mustaches were common.
It reminded me of a Cossack mustache.
Oh,
That's a really
yeah.
good point. Yeah.
So maybe that's where it came from.
That
Yeah, I hadn't
would
thought of
make
that. That
sense.
could be. The
And
memes about the mustache have just been like off the charts, though.
So good.
yeah, the Dr. Robotnik is hilarious.
So good.
But then so I was kind of a nerd and I listened to the audiobook of Dracula by Bram Stoker.
Oh,
where
nice.
So it gets the source material for the first one anyway, the first Nosferatu, and they describe it a few times as having an aquiline nose, which is the huge, broad, like long, and
Like almost hooked.
like a bridge of a nose, almost downward pointed. So
Okay.
they did that. They maybe accentuated it just a wee bit, but I thought they nailed it with that.
The prosthetics were phenomenal. Really
Yeah.
good. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, the
as you would
prosthetics were
expect.
amazing. Like, yeah, you really could not tell that those
Right.
were prosthetics. They were very, very good.
But we all knew because it was Bill, and you're like, that's not what Bill looks like.
That's not Bill's nose.
Yeah, that's not you.
Let's see. And then what happens after that? Then he becomes like a hostage there. Hutter becomes a hostage at Count Orlok's castle.
Oh, yeah. So the passage of time in this movie was kind of weird for me.
Yeah.
Like, I had trouble figuring out how long he was actually there. Because I'm like, how long would it take a letter to get, like, across the ocean to her? Or, like, how long was he there? Like, how long was he gone, actually?
Yeah. In the book it says the voyage took him 6 weeks.
Oh,
That tracks.
wow.
So I
That's
don't
a
know
long
if
way to go.
yeah, even if it took 3 weeks, 3 there and 3 back, and if he was there, and they kept gaslighting him saying he was sick. Like you can't leave when you're sick. But that was their only way to chain him there, semaphorically
Yeah.
chain him there so he could draw blood every night.
And I think that's part of I would almost say it's intentional, the lack of ability to kind of get the passage of time down, because like if you think about it, even from the first time he meets Nosferatu, when he cuts his finger and then he suddenly wakes up the next morning, he's like, oh God, what happened? I think there's always that sense of unease of like, how did I get here? How long have I been asleep? And I think that kind of plays into it. And I think that as a viewer, that kind of uneasiness, uncertainty, kind of dovetails with that really nicely.
Yeah, and this movie does a great job of leaving you feel unsettled the whole fucking time.
Oh my God, very unsettled.
So bad. But that's the whole thing, and that's one of the things I love about this movie.
Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, I'm sweaty and uncomfortable the entire time I watched this, and I loved it.
It was delightful. I very much enjoyed it.
So did anybody else see people just absolutely lose their minds on the internet about the nude scene? About the naked vampire?
I've seen people get like very like, why is it so sexual? And it's like, well,
That's the whole point.
that's the
Yeah,
point.
it's like, have people never seen a vampire movie before?
I mean, yeah, I feel like if anything, the original is the outlier in this case.
Mhm.
Right.
And I mean, I would say that it's more of a like it dovetails nicely with the whole idea of like stealing someone's life force or like getting energy from someone. Like that connection, I think, is a big part of that. There is a lot of sex. There's a lot of sex.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on here, but I think it works in the movie. And I think going into it, especially knowing what past film work that he's done has looked like, it wasn't entirely unexpected.
Right.
then-
Around this, yeah, let's get back to the story. Around the same time, Ellen is like having like sleepwalking attacks, or I don't know if they call them episodes.
Yes.
And then like fits of demonic possession, it looks like to people, and their whole thing was, oh, there's too much blood. Let's drain her.
Yeah.
and
Female
the Count is like,
medicine.
yeah.
Oh yeah, man, let's give her some
Female
more ether.
medicine.
Yeah, let's get her
Yeah.
some more ether, knock her
Oh
out.
my God. Female hysteria.
Yeah.
Right. They yeah, they tie her to the bed so she can't move, and it just so It seems
Yeah, they're
so.
like they're like, she seems horny. Let's tie her up about it.
Yeah, but it happens more. I think it happens more after Orlok gets her lock of hair, right? Because then there's a connection again.
Yeah, because he immediately, I mean, in the original, it's a photo, but in the new movie, she puts a lock of her hair in that locket for Thomas to take with him. And Orlok's immediately like, oh, hey, I'll just take that. Let me look at that. And then never gives it back.
Yeah.
Right. And he just allows that. He's just like, oh, okay. I guess you're the boss of me now.
Well, he does go, can I have my locket back? And then the door shuts, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Nope. You may
Denied.
not.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Sorry. Click. Go to bed.
And I think the other interesting part is, you know, the locket does help forge that connection again, or at least that's the implication. But let's not forget, Nock has orchestrated all of this. He's like behind the scenes, pulling strings, making sure that, you know, Thomas gets there. I mean, for me, I was very curious. I would love to dig more into that, like how Nock knows Nosferatu in the first place. Like, obviously, he's into some dark magic stuff, and definitely into the occult. But it's like, okay, so how did he make contact? Have they met? Or is he just receiving these messages from a distance, which I think was the implication. But he's definitely a huge player in this version in getting that connection made.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem crazy at first. Like he actually seems sane and logical, and he's just a businessman. Hey, this guy with money wants to buy an old dilapidated property. Let's sell it to him.
Sounds good. He'll pay good money.
Yeah, exactly.
Ultimately, he just wanted power, right? You know, and he's going to the occult to seek power, and he just.
Oh, Nock, yeah, probably.
Yeah, and
that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's funny how like nobody sees the signs of like what he's doing, like the seal and like the candles and the things on the floor, and like
it's in his work desk,
the occult text.
In the cabinet.
Yeah, he didn't hide any of it. Like
No.
it's out there in the open, and none of his business partners are like, that seems suspicious.
I like it. If I'm correct, and I'm not sure if I was correct in understanding where he's naked conducting a ritual. He was in the office, wasn't he?
Like, yeah, I guess you know you can do whatever you want in your office, and people will just leave you alone.
Yeah,
that doesn't work for the rest of us, but it worked for him.
Or he might have the building might have a basement that he might be able to do the stuff in.
That's fair. Still, you're
sure.
going to your place of work to do your occult work, but you know what? Fine. Whatever works for you.
You know what? He's the boss. Nobody's going to question what he does.
No.
Yeah.
So we're just going to, you know, leave him alone.
Yeah, and then Hutter finally escapes the castle and falls into a river, and then a bunch of nuns find him naked, or at least passed out on the side of a river.
Yeah. And then they're trying to like get the spiritual connection from Nosferatu away. Like it I think it was another really interesting kind of like intermingling of cultures there. Because it felt very orthodox, which would have been the predominant religious player in that region, I would assume at that time. I'm trying to remember exactly when this happened, but
1838.
1838. Okay, so yeah, probably. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I had forgotten that happened. This is why I needed to watch it again.
That's why I watched it twice.
Did anybody else like immediately go to the scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where
where all the nuns
that's
so,
right.
Where he's at the nunnery and they're all like, you must stay.
You must. I'm like, this is gonna get weirdly sexual again with the nuns, but then it didn't. It was fine. The nuns were perfect.
It would have been on brand for it to get weirdly sexual. This is
like, I don't know. As soon as they
found
him, I thought that's where it was going. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, because like you guys said, this is a very sexual story, so why not insert that element? But it was more like they know Nosferatu. They're like guarding the rest of the world against him. Maybe that's why he can't leave.
Yeah.
So he finally gets healthy and gets back, but by then, Ellen's like a former shell of herself because he's like startled when he gets back to her. It seemed like.
Yeah.
Plus all the stuff Severs was telling him about her, and Yeah, but what's his name? And then at this time, same time though, Orlok is on his last voyage of the Demeter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Killing everyone one by one, and then it comes to
Orlok's
town,
doubling
and like there's nothing but rats on it, so it's a plague
Oh,
ship.
yeah, it just crashes into the dock, and then
I
like
gotta
all the
say,
rats. That
without
part
a
was so creepy. Like that imagery
was.
was so creepy of just all of these rats and how people would have felt about that at that time. People would have been like, you would have been terrified of the plague and
Right.
like seeing all these rats running off this ship and somebody yells, "It's a plague ship." It
Horrifying.
just, yeah, horrifying.
Yeah.
well, I mean, how does the ship know which dock to crash into?
You know, I am gonna chalk this up to some good old Orlok magic, maybe.
Okay, I know. I'm just it was a
Some-
joke.
No,
You
but that's a
know.
good point. That's a good point. That's a plot hole.
Yeah, there you go. That is a good plot hole, but the story got to move along. The plot's got to move along.
Ship's gotta get there somehow.
And then is this is around the time when they find Willem Dafoe. What's his name? God, what's his
Oh,
what
is
is
it?
it?
Von Franz. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, Dafoe was delightful in this fucking movie.
Oh,
So
I
good.
loved his character so much.
I
He
really
this
did
so
too.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played it perfectly. It seemed like in any other movie it would have seemed over the top, but it was like perfect in this one.
It just works. It works
Yeah.
really well.
And he's the
I
only
was
one
a
who
little-
believes Ellen and treats her like an equal and doesn't treat her like something that got to be quiet and stay in a
Right.
corner.
Yeah, like a hysterical woman.
Yeah.
But of course,
Like,
nobody's gonna listen to him because, like,
he's also ostracized.
Yeah, he's also
Yeah. Yeah, because he's also fallen out of favor in the medical world. That's why he's often his own thing. But Seaver still regards him as a great man because he was his mentor back in the day,
Yeah.
and kind of still is. Because I mean, he knows exactly what to do, and all the stuff that's going on. It's almost like he was waiting his whole life for this fucking moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does feel that way. And it does feel like there is that connection between him and Ellen because they're both, seen as crazy, seen as, out there, outcast.
Outcasts, yeah.
And being able to like see that in someone else and be like, oh, okay, maybe I can help this person because I'm also in this position of disadvantage.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And it
the show
seemed
was
very,
perfect.
fated, like, to happen this way. But
Right.
yeah, I love the way he played this character so much. One thing that bothered me a little bit that I thought was maybe like this could have been cut was like the references to alchemy.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't go anywhere.
Because it didn't go anywhere. I was like, why include this? Are you including this just to show, I guess, why he's been ostracized by the scientific community because he started pursuing the occult and pursuing alchemy? But I would like to have seen that go somewhere in the like long running story because it was included, but
Yeah.
that kind of fizzled out for me.
Maybe he's got like some fake gold chains. Sell him at the swap meet.
Well, so I thought like this was going to go somewhere with him like making some sort of metal or silver or something that traps.
Oh, right. Right.
But
Yeah.
it didn't. So I was just, I don't know. I've seen too many episodes of Supernatural, and I just thought that's where it was going.
Or like Minecraft, you enchant some crucifix or something that holds him.
Yeah, I would say it's probably more of a device to indicate like, here's all these crazy things that he believed. Like
Oh.
Yeah,
things that
look
would
at
have
this
been
nutty
really
whack
crazy.
job.
Yeah.
Right.
To kind of differentiate him from like if you look at the what is it, the main doctor at the asylum who's like very level-headed, and for him to be like alchemy, dark spirits.
Yeah,
the occult.
alchemy, dark spirits. Oh, hold on, there's too much blood. Get the ether. Like,
Oh my god.
But they
all
call
of
it
these things are
congestion.
the same level of crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just some good old female hysteria. Nothing to see here. Just knock her out. Tie her to the bed.
God, I wish
Yep.
somebody would just knock me out. Thanks. Where do I get this?
How do I
And-
get treated for hysteria?
And then finally we get the confrontation between Orlok and Ellen, and he tells her that you have to give yourself freely to me, and you have 3 nights to make your decision. By the way, this is night number 1. Why didn't you just say 2
Surprise.
nights?
Right. Yeah. Like, oh, this is night number 1. It's
Oh, yeah.
not just like, hey, you've got 2 more nights.
Right,
It's like,
exactly.
It's going down
you
right
have
now.
3 nights. Tonight is the first night.
I love it. I love it.
And then oh, good.
It's like, but you know, that scene where like he first like comes to her again is like, it's visually so good.
Yeah,
Everything about that scene is so good.
Is that when his hand stretches out over the whole city? And
Like that.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
and the shadows on the curtains, which I think is the first night that he comes.
Right.
Yes.
I loved that. Where like you've got the shadow behind the curtain blows back, there's nothing there. I loved that so much. That's up there with the carriage scene for me. I just love the way that whole scene is shot. And again, it's that whole light and shadow thing that I'm apparently really into light and shadows.
Like,
yeah,
well,
but that really harkens back to the original too, with just the way the shadows are used in this scene.
Right. And then, you know, the light and shadows contrast, good and evil, that whole thing, it plays into all that. Yeah, and then so then she finally confesses to Thomas about her wishes and everything, because she's like, I gotta come clean. But then it leads to them having sex, and that angers Orlok, because he goes on a killing spree.
I mean, it feels very much like she's almost torn about how she's feeling. Like, I feel like there's definitely tension between her and Orlok, which I think is really interesting. Because again, we don't get that in the original. But like the use of like, you could never please me like he does, or like her just like I feel like almost needling him into being like having sex with her, which pisses Orlok off.
But it calms her down, though. I mean, as far as like it quiets the voices in her head, and it makes her feel sane.
Yeah, I think that again, when people talk about this movie being too like really sexual, it's like, well, that's a huge part of the plot. Like that's what calms her down.
Yeah.
Like he comes back, she's no longer having fits in the middle of the night.
But I also feel like a lot of women felt that way, but they were oppressed, or they felt repressed because of the societal pressures.
Right, because you weren't allowed to be a sexual being if you were a woman. You weren't allowed to want sex. You weren't allowed to be interested in sex. You know, that was just like, it was so taboo.
Didn't even Anna
making babies, and you weren't supposed to be like attracted to your husband or like whatever.
I don't think you're even supposed to be
fun. It's for business.
I don't think you're even supposed to be out by yourself if you're a woman, like in town, even during the day. You have to have a chaperone the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, I think we get a little bit of that when they're down by the coast, when she's there with was it Anna and Frederick? Was it Frederick?
Her husband?
Yeah. And it's like, she can't be out there by herself. She has to be accompanied. Like, even as a married woman, she has to have someone with her.
Yeah, but it was even showing signs of repression, because she didn't even want to kiss him in public in the earlier scene.
True. I forgot about that.
So she was conforming, but Ellen was like, I don't want to conform. I want to feel like the way I'm feeling, but you guys are making me. So, so the whole thing, but then Orlok didn't like it because she gave herself to her husband, which shouldn't have been a big deal, but they made that compact, or that he answered her wishes back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in his mind, she was, I mean,
she was his. Yeah.
She was his. Yeah.
So
yeah, that was a powerful scene too. The whole like him holding the kids. I'm like, I'm
like, no, don't kill the kids.
Yeah.
Nah, fuck them kids. Sorry. Sorry.
But did all the animals
win? I was like, okay, here's some little plot devices. Like,
they did look like little dolls though, all dressed up with their curls and their little bonnets.
Yeah, really cute, but also in a creepy way. Yeah.
A little bit.
Like the first watch of this. So I saw this 2 times in the theater. And the second time it was completely empty. It was so nice just to be able to like watch it. It was like completely empty.
I could imagine you with your notes.
Right. I'm like trying to see in the dark. I'm using like my phone flashlight.
Yeah, your phone light.
But the first time I watched it, there was a group of women sitting down, you know, just a little bit down from me, that were very stressed out like by this movie. But also I think like there was a lot of like literal pearl clutching going on, like, and then like fanning themselves and stuff. And I was just like watching this reaction. I'm like, I think that's how you're supposed to react. I think that's the like,
there's supposed to be shock value.
yeah, it's like, because they're shocked initially, but then they're like, also, this is kind of hot. Like they're like, but maybe.
A decaying vampire. Ooh.
Yeah. Whew.
Well, he's still very forceful and knows what he wants and does whatever wants to get it. I mean, there's some sexuality to that, right?
Nosferatu's a dom. That's where we're going with it.
Right. Yeah.
That was the final note. Thanks for stepping on it.
I'm sorry.
I just kidding.
Damn it.
Greg just turns it off. He's like, no more.
Yeah. All right.
That's
See
it.
you guys
That's
next
where we're
week.
stopping.
Click.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, and then that was the second night, right? That was night number 2, they said. And then he kills the kids and Frederick's wife, Anna.
Yeah.
He kills both of them, and then there was that whole scene, and it's funny because he righteously gets mad at everyone because he's upset. And they're talking like nonchalant. Hey, let's get what we're gonna do. Let's go get something to eat after this. I'm just joking, but he does righteously get upset, and then later on he goes, "Oh, I apologize. I was not myself." Like, no, you were yourself. You should be mad your wife just fucking died.
Yeah, I feel like that was a completely justified outburst of anger.
Yes,
my
exactly.
wife and kids both died, probably brutally.
Yeah,
like this is a reasonable reason to be upset.
Yeah, but the addition of the whole plague thing as being like a plot device for the whole town being in fear, and like there's bodies in the streets and people are dying of the plague, but they're also dying of a vampire. And if people are dying of the plague, but they're also dying of a vampire, you're just going to assume that everybody's dying of the plague.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's brain is going to jump to vampire.
Yeah. So his family's deaths really didn't ring a bell with the whole town, or else the whole town would have been up in arms and helping them.
Right. Because we didn't get that torches and pitchforks. Like, let's go root out this vampire.
Yeah. Nobody's riding around naked on a horse. It's just not happening because it's lost in all ways.
Right.
It's unfortunate for everyone that nobody's riding around naked on a horse, because like who doesn't just want to see that? Like, this should just
everybody wants a Lady Godiva moment. I mean, let's be honest.
Right?
Everyone deserves one.
Exactly. I think one of the other things that's interesting about the vampire deaths too is the way in which he feeds from people is distinctly different from most vampire lore, where like traditionally you're getting bit in the neck.
Yeah.
It's like biting people's chests, which I mean, you want to get close to the source, but
the heart, right?
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. Closer to the nipple.
I find the most erotic part of the woman is the boobies. Sorry, it's a little Zap Brannigan. I should not. You can cut that out.
No, that's
the part. Go back to there's boob men, there's butt men, and then there's neck men. And then apparently we're back to chest men. This Nosferatu is a boob man.
It all circles back to chest. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's the clip we're using, by the way, for when we on Instagram.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
The erotic part of the woman is the boobies.
And so the kind of like the next part or next scenes are really Von Franz and Ellen plotting to capture Nosferatu, and she knows what she has to do. He knows what she has to do. She's got to be the bait. So he's going to lead a team of everyone else. She stays safe at home while he leads a team to go and his end is actually very smart too. If you destroy where he sleeps, he cannot get back there. He destroys sanctuary and then he's dead. So his part is smart, but he knows that she's got to. I mean, he says in no uncertain terms that you've got to be with him.
Right. So I'm going to bring up something dumb again because this is who I am.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing me on your podcast so I could just derail every train.
Talk about boobies, yes.
But when they talk about how he has to return to like native soil, like he has to return to soil from his homeland. So yeah, obviously that's in the coffin. I just immediately went to that episode of What We Do in the Shadows where they go to Vegas.
And they had to bring the dirt.
They had to bring the dirt. But then the like cleaning lady vacuums up their dirt. And so they have to send Guillermo on a like trip
Oh,
back
when he's
to
all
get-
over the world getting
and
all the
he's going all over the world while they're just waiting in Vegas. Like,
I have not seen that
like my
episode.
brain.
Oh
Oh,
my
I'm
God.
sorry. So I just spoiled it for you, but it's
That's
a very
fine.
funny episode.
It's all right. I do like the show,
Um,
but I haven't seen that one.
I love that
But
show.
I love that this is like the source material for like all vampire fiction
Right.
forever. Like this
Mhm.
is the source material for all vampire fiction. It's Bram Stoker's Dracula, and the changes made to that material in the original Nosferatu just stuck. And
Yeah.
that's what we think of vampires now.
Because the movies are powerful, a little bit more powerful than books as far as reaching the masses.
Right. Yeah. And I love that because, like, you know, when you see those things in this movie, you know, like where it came from in the original source material, and you can connect it to all this other vampire fiction, even the funny stuff, like What We Do in the Shadows. So anyway, sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. Go back
It's
to
a
what you were
very
talking
serious show.
about.
But that's what that show does so well is there's all that humor, but then they do have like some tenets that they stick to that
Right.
they could derive the humor from, which is excellent writing.
Yeah.
It really is.
So yeah, so then the plan with that third night, and she willingly accepts him. The other troop goes to Orlok's hiding area, his little coffin, his tomb, mausoleum, whatever it is, and it's church, right, or something like that. Anybody at church?
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what? I'm confusing
I
it
think
with
it's a cemetery. It's
the cemetery.
Oh,
Okay.
you're right, because don't they find Frederick naked with his dead wife? That's
Yeah,
troublesome.
that's a little
That's a whole thing.
necrophilia going on there.
That's a whole thing. Couldn't leave that one out. So sorry.
Come on. Let's just be real. Who doesn't want to be loved that way? Like, somebody loves you so much that they're just throwing their naked body on top of your corpse.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe just me.
Has rigor mortis set in yet though?
Oh boy.
This is very different if for the male or female. I'm not. You know what? I'm gonna stop.
I mean, that's some real love right there, and real mourning going on.
So they get they get there. The three men get there. Or was it? It was Seaver and Van Franz and Thomas Hutter. They get there, and Thomas, I think, expects to see Orlok there, but he's not. It's Knock was there.
Yeah, and
Knock
then
was
that's
there.
his moment where he's like, you know, where it all comes together.
Yep.
Yeah.
For him.
And Von Franz is like, he knew, so he's like, why are you running? It's too late, you know.
Yeah.
And then that was his madman scene, and I was there for the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then he splashes gasoline all around and sets it on fire. I don't even know if it's gasoline; it might just be oil, and it sets it on fire.
Oil. It's probably whale oil.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 1838. And he's standing there like his top of the world month for like James Cagney scene with the everything on fire behind him. I thought it was a great shot.
A cool scene.
Yeah. I mean, it was totally, you know, like you could tell it wasn't oil catching on fire. It was like burners behind him, but still, it looked great.
But still, it was a very cool scene. Yeah.
Agreed. And then, you know, in the meantime, then Hutter gets back in time to see his naked wife, lying there with a corpse on him because the sun came up and killed Orlok.
Yeah.
So if Orlok didn't go back for seconds, he probably might have been alive. He would have a chance to live, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't
know, because if he's getting back there and they've destroyed his
oh yeah, he wouldn't have anywhere to go back
fire.
Yep, he would have sent I almost said Renfield. He would have said Knockout to get some soil from his homeland.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd have to just wait in there. He's just like perched, like naked and quiet. Just like
just waiting.
Just waiting.
No, but and that shows how powerful Ellen was. The whole time you think she's like got no power whatsoever, and she's totally submissive to the powers of Nosferatu, but she has a lot of power. She had a lot of hand, and she was able to keep him there long enough for him to get.
This was the good for her moment. It's like good for her.
Because she kept telling him to continue feeding to the point where she was beyond saving.
But she knew she was saving the world.
Yeah.
Right.
from him anyway. So yeah, very
Bring
very
down on the rats.
very good movie. I mean, overall, your thoughts?
Loved it. I like that it was pretty true to the story of the original. Like it wasn't just completely off the rails different. Because I think
Mhm.
with a classic like that, I think that there's always that temptation to be like, let me make it my own. And I feel like he did, but by building upon what was already there.
Right.
And I think definitely the cinematography, there's a lot of hearkening back to the original. I was going somewhere with that, but the brain cell.
Didn't the castle kind of look like the original castle? One of the scenes, anyway. The
Yeah.
archways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it did.
Yeah.
I thought they did a good job too.
Yeah, I also absolutely love this movie. This is going to be a rewatcher for me, just over
Yeah.
and over, forever. Like,
It's a
yeah, I'll
Christmas
probably watch this
tradition.
every Christmas. It's my new favorite Christmas movie.
There you
And
go.
watch the Krampus.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to watch Krampus. I'm going to watch Nosferatu. But I think he did a really good job of taking the original source material and sort of, because there were some like weirdly unnecessary things in the
Werewolf.
original, like the werewolf and like some things
The
that
Venus
sort of
flytrap.
muddied the waters as to like what the story is.
Yeah.
And I think he did a good job of like taking some of those things out while retaining and expanding upon some of the more important aspects. Like you know, like giving some of the female characters a little bit more backstory or a little bit more fleshed out like characters. And
Right.
yeah, and then yeah, like the scene at the inn portraying what the culture shock really would have been like versus having him be like, actually I can talk to everyone and just tell them that they're wrong about their culture and I'm gonna go there anyway. Yeah, so it's like
The crazy thing about the end scene, real quick, if we can go back, is how they disappeared the next day. I know they're gypsies, they're nomadic.
Oh
but
yeah.
Yeah, and they packed up and they were gone.
Yeah.
They're like,
But the whole
yeah,
village.
they're like,
was
there's
still there.
vampires here.
Yeah.
We're gone. We're out. Peace.
Yeah, the buildings are still there. Like they don't care about the building. Maybe they come back. Maybe it's, they move from time to time.
Yeah, because you know when he left, the nuns that were like, dude, don't don't take this with you. The darkness is gonna come with you. And he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go get another horse from that weird village.
Yeah.
And just pieces out. But there's no one there. Like I feel like he's just looking around like, hello. Like, first off,
Right.
they don't speak English. They're not gonna understand what you're saying. And he just steals a horse. So
Yeah.
it was unclear to me what was going on there.
Yeah.
Because
like, they
the
don't
horse-
speak
the
English, and
horse
also
was
they
still
don't
there.
care about him at all. They're
Yeah.
like,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, I love this movie. I thought it was great. This is definitely a rewatchable for me. I want to watch it like at least once a year. I don't know about Christmas time. I might have to watch it before Christmas, maybe on Christmas too. But yeah, it was so good, and it made me so unsettled. Like I said earlier, but I love that because if a movie could make me feel that way, then they did a great job, and it was a great feeling to afterwards. How I could be so my emotions could be altered that much by a film. And I want to go back. I want to go and watch all of Robert Eggers films now, because he has what, The Witch, the Lighthouse, the Watchmen. He's got a few of them. He's got about 5 or 6. So it's not a big library. So before it gets way too big, because he's gonna blow up after this, I think.
I agree. I mean, I love The Witch is one of my favorite movies.
I think I quote that movie to Kristen all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
I think you actually quoted it to me yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that movie. That movie is brilliant. Fantastic.
It's so good. Yeah.
And also still like very unsettling. It has that very uncomfortable, unsettling, slow burn type energy throughout the entire movie. It's like, you know that something is wrong, even at times when things seem normal in that. It's so good.
The general atmospheric vibe that he brings to his films is really, really great. Especially as someone that very much with their horror, I'm much more of like a folk horror type person. Or like mythology or folklore. I think that he does those particular subgenres very well, specifically because he does a really good job at developing that sense of unease.
And character development and all that stuff.
Development.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he just did an interview because he's like the it boy right now because of this film in Hollywood. Yeah, they asked him about like doing a more modern set movie, and he said, "Nope." Here's his quote: "The idea of having to photograph a car makes me ill," Edgar said, "and the idea of photographing a cell phone is just death. And to make a contemporary story, you have to photograph a cell phone. It's just how life is. So no, I won't be making any modern set films."
I love that, and I'm gonna have to read that. Okay, I think I just found it because I
Okay.
immediately went to go look that up because I want to read the rest of this interview. Yeah, I feel like this is 100% his strength.
Mhm.
That reminds me is that he's announced his next feature is a werewolf project, where I assume
Oh.
they will not use Tasmanian devils.
Right. Yeah.
That'll
They're
piss me
not gonna
every
do.
time.
Well, are you gonna
Yeah.
go watch Wolfman? That's the next Universal? It just came out, right? Like last
Oh
weekend.
yeah, I'm gonna go
Oh,
watch
yeah.
that tomorrow night. So I'm excited for that one. There's a lot of good horror coming out within the next few weeks. Like,
I'm very
it-
excited.
yeah.
I haven't
So
had time. Oh, and Nosferatu, they just came out with the director's cut on streaming.
Well,
yeah,
gonna
I
have to go
saw
watch
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, I should have watched this before like
I
recording
thought
today.
I
Like,
saw it last night, and I'm
Oh,
like, I don't have time to
yeah.
to watch
I
it.
did
yeah,
I did see that last night, and I
yeah.
was asleep by, like, 9 o'clock, so that did not happen, obviously.
I was not asleep by 9 o'clock, and that was part of my problem today.
Yep, I was up late too. I had to record my regular show, but that's neither here nor there. Um, yeah, so we got to do this again. We got to do. We'll come up with another project later on down the line that we can all watch and discuss.
I love
Oh
that.
yeah, for sure. I know on my post from our first round of this podcast, I got some suggestions from people who wanted to like uh us to do more silent horror films. I guess
Okay,
there are some real
I
gems
love
out
that.
there that I have not seen. So
I'm in. I'm totally in.
I'm very
yeah.
in.
All right, you find one, and we'll set up a time, and I'll make it happen.
Yeah, let's
Maybe
do it.
we don't drink every time there's dialogue cards, though. I think that would
Yeah.
be really
Yeah,
fun.
that's maybe a
Oh
little too
my
much.
god.
Yeah,
I was wrecked.
I was
Absolutely
also
wrecked.
absolutely wrecked.
Oh
yeah.
my god.
Yeah, I was feeling it. I wasn't too bad. Maybe I was taking smaller sips than you ladies were, though. I don't know.
I'm a fast drinker. That's why
Well, and I was drinking every time I was like slightly uncomfortable, also, which, in that movie, you were uncomfortable.
It's a lot.
You were like,
Yeah. I'd like to quote something that my brother always says: "I don't need a game to drink."
That's
There
So
you go.
we don't need to
That's
play a
the
drinking
spirit.
game. We'll just drink while we watch.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the spirit.
All right. Anything you ladies would like to add before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. It's a
Okay.
fantastic movie, and it's fantastic talking to you guys.
I
Always
agree.
a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. So to everyone out there, cheers. Until next time.
Cheers.